Hello tankers and tankettes, and welcome to the first of the contest results. Now we're going to look at the lowest bracket first, tiers 1 to 4. Unsurprisingly, the top winners were tier 4, but before I go any further I want to give out a couple of shout outs. Of course, tank destroyers dominated the lower tiers, I have to say, but I want to give a shout out to Mateusz Jakubowski129, who managed nearly 2,000 damage in a Cruiser 4, which is a tier 3 vehicle, and above average, who had just over 1,900 damage in a Covenanter. So those are maybe not machines you would have expected to be doing pretty well, but they really did. And the Cruiser 4 especially, to get nearly 2,000 damage in that thing, and it must have been a tier 5 battle. You're not going to get that many hit points in a tier 3 battle. It's quite impressive. So yes, replays. Now I did mention in the update video that there was going to be a little surprise, and the surprise is this. Raylin, in an even more absurd fit of generosity, has decided that he's going to donate second and third place prizes as well. So that means that even if you didn't quite make it to the top, and the competition was pretty damn fierce, I have to say, across all brackets, then you might still get a little bit of gold out of it. So without further ado, we are going to go to our third place prize, and we're going to see some edited highlights of the third place and second place games, and then we're going to see the first place in its entirety. So on with the show. And the third place winner is Flowbath3, who is driving the Panzer IV Ausf.D. I'm not going to say what the damage result is just now, because that would slightly spoil it, but yeah, we're going to see some edited highlights of his submission. Now, I'm not going to show all 3 battles in their entirety, as I said, because that would make for far too long a video. My internet could just not cope with that at all. Instead of the results videos going up on 4 consecutive days, it would be a day in between each one, and the extra time would all be uploading, probably. So, the Panzer IV is actually a pretty strong tank at tier 4. There's now a tier 3 version, a tier 4 version, and a tier 5 version. And as you go from tier 3 to tier 5, they lose mobility, but they get armor. And obviously also they get hit points as well. And the tier 4 is obviously in the middle of that, but what makes the tier 4 quite nice is it's still got pretty decent mobility, but it also gets the gun of the tier 5, the L43 75mm, and that's a pretty damn nice gun to have at tier 5. It's got 103 average pen and 110 average damage, so it's more than enough for pretty much all the tier 6 targets you'll meet. But like the tier 5 Panzer IV, you're going to have to flank round for a lot of them, or else reach for the premium ammo, which is obviously always an option. So he's just getting in some early damage. We're not that far into this match on Malinovka. All 3 winners, by the way, their submissions were matches on Malinovka. I don't know what it is about this map, but yeah, I mean, it was just coincidence, but still, I thought that was kind of funny that all 3 were on Malinovka. And he's going to kill his T28 if he gets another shot in. And he does, very nice. So this gun is a pretty good gun for what this contest has all been about, which is doing damage. And I think many people assumed that tank destroyers were just going to walk away with all the prizes. And that's not a bad assumption to make under the circumstances, but I think some of the results at some of the other tiers, some of the other brackets, will quite surprise you. There are actually relatively few tank destroyers that are going to be walking away with prizes in this one, and most of them, the majority, are going to be at tier 4. I don't want to give away which ones exactly, but the next 2 winners are people who are driving tank destroyers. So the games they were in, both on this map, also both not top tier. And the thing is, when you're doing tier 4 and you want to get lots of damage, you can't be top tier, because unless you literally kill everything on the enemy team, there just isn't enough hit points to go around. So we've taken care of all the immediate targets in the north of the map there. The T150 is making moves towards our base, and he's loaded up premium at this point because the T150 frontally is a fairly tough target, and this guy's also quite far away, so of course there's the loss of penetration over distance to deal with as well, and that one bounces even so. So he's just trying to get the shots in here, and he is decently racking up the damage. We're now just over 1,000 damage, nearly 1,100. And he doesn't get the kill, unfortunately. But hey, this isn't a competition about kills, it's a competition about damage. So we're going to fast forward a little bit, and he's now approaching the enemy base. And we see there's an enemy. Is that a KV-85? The thing is, I'm having to do this in the preview window of Sony Vegas, and it keeps shifting the quality down quite far, so it's quite difficult to make out some details sometimes. But we're even, we're 10-11, but we're down to the last couple of camping tanks basically on the enemy team. And hey, it's Malinovka, so what can you expect? Flobar has managed to not lose any health so far, but hello, that's the Su-100. He gets a sneaky shot in, but then he backs down, because the Su-100 with the top gun can and will one-shot him quite a lot of the time. It would have to have quite a low roll to not just kill him outright, because he's only got 350 hit points. So that's one of the ways in which you have to be, you know, you've got the good gun, but you still have to be more careful, because you don't have the armor and you do not have the hit points to spare, especially not against a gun that has 390 alpha. So we actually had two mediums that, where the VK3002M is, we also had, I can't even remember what it was, but there was another medium that came around behind and unfortunately got killed, and now the 3002M is all alone and he's got trouble. Flobar, I keep wanting to say Slowbar, but it's not Slowbar, it's Flobar. Flobar really needs somebody to shoot at this Su-100 that can take the hit, or, you know, ideally the VK would shoot up at the Su-100 that he's trying to keep lit up. But the VK's got troubles of his own, as you can see. He's not doing too well. He's actually nearly dead himself. So it really is, in the immediate vicinity, it's Flobar and this Tog that are left. Oh, there's an enemy bathtub. He's quite an important target to take down. Now, oh, unfortunately that one misses. The gun, I mean, it's not the most accurate in the world, but on the other hand, that's the side of a Tog, and it bounces on the side of a Tog. I was going to say, you'd have to be doing quite badly to miss the side of a Tog. And he didn't miss so much as he hit and bounced, which is almost as galling on the side of a Tog. But hey, he is firing at a distance here. Now unfortunately the VK3001H that was there died, and it's now down to a Tog and Flobar, so a tier 6 and a tier 4 versus the 4 enemies that never really left the enemy base area. That's just the nature of this map, though. I mean, it does... I found this map, it kind of grinds to a halt near the end quite often, because even if you're in this situation where you've got people that are unwilling to press, even though they have a, you know, 100% numerical advantage, you're left with either that you're just waiting it out and it's a draw because they're just so unwilling to advance, or you are trying to do your best to pick them off one by one and not die yourself. Now Flobar's been quite lucky here. The Su-100 took 2 pot shots at him, missed, or was it 3 pot shots? But in the process of killing that Su-100, who's pretty dangerous, he takes a hit from the bathtub. Now we know from that intelligence that the bathtub has not got the top gun, and we know he's also not full health because Flobar has hit him already. So if he'd had the 105 mil, he maybe could one-shot Flobar. But now watch this. Total guess, utter and total guess, kills the guy. That's just wonderful. Sometimes it is worth taking a blind shot at those places where you know enemy tanks like to hang out, like to camp, basically, like to take cover. And Flobar took such a shot, and it paid off. So we're now down to 2 versus 2. He really, he's kind of struggling for hit points. The enemy Tog isn't going to kill him outright, but he's going to reload very quickly, and the Jackson with 240 average alpha could kill him with 1 shot, so he's got to be careful. He's either a 2-shot or a 1-shot kill, depending. If he's really lucky, he's a 3-shot kill for the enemy Tog, but the DPM on the Tog is so good that it's tricky. It's going to be very, very tricky, and he is quite, in large part, dependent on what, you know, his own friendly Tog, what that guy's going to do. Now, I don't think any of them have got particularly good view range, but there's the enemy Tog, there's the Jackson, and Flobar decides to concentrate his fire on the Tog because that 17-pounder gun's pretty dangerous. Now, I don't think the Tog can see him because it doesn't actually look at any point like he's going to fire at Flobar, and presumably the Jackson hadn't seen him either. So he's just racking up a bit more damage. See, he's up to over 2,000 damage now. And, oh come on, this guy's so close. I mean, he's angled though, and hitting the turret front with this pen. You know, he's run out of premium shells at this point, and that's where you'd want to use them. But this is just taking such a long time, and it's dangerous. Oh, he's so close! He's so close to dying. Come on! It's dangerous because he doesn't know where the Jackson is during all of this. So if he's to carry this off, it's gonna be really tough. Come on, he needs his shells to work. He needs his shells to hit their targets and actually not bounce. Uh-oh. Yeah, have you seen on the minimap? I don't think Flowbar had. Yes, there's the Jackson. Oh dear. Oh well. So that was 2,588 damage in a loss in a tier 4 tank in a tier 6 battle, and he had 4 kills, and out of that he got 1,391 base XP. He also got an ace mastery, he got high caliber because he way outstripped anybody else on his team. The Tog was second place with 1,700 damage. 3002M was next place with 1400, and then after that it's like 580, 570. So he was having to pick up a lot of the slack for the tier 6s basically, and because he killed a couple of higher tiers there, he also got a Lever Schleichos medal, which is what you get for killing 2 or more enemy tanks with a medium tank that are at least 2 ranks above you. So that was a pretty good performance. It's just a pity it was a loss. That must have been quite gutting. But even so, it was good enough for 3rd place, and bearing that in mind, bearing the damage in mind, we shall move on to the 2nd place result. And 2nd place goes to Rip and Tear, who is in the Su-85B. Now I did say, yes, there are more winners at tier 4 in tank destroyers than there are at other tiers, and it's actually going to be another Su-85B as the winner, and that's because it's a very powerful little machine, as this 82 is about to find out. Now Rip has just switched to premium ammo for the side of this guy. One goes in the tracks, but that gives him time to reload and shoot again. And this 82, you know, he's not chosen the best place to go up the hill, but he's not gonna last very long now. Yes. Now, this is an encounter battle, so hopefully it's going to be a bit less campy than the previous one, but we shall see. There's also going to be more fast forwards and edits in this one, because the nature of this machine means that you can't be terribly aggressive with it a lot of the time. You have to be sneaky, you have to be aware, and you have to look out for shots like this. Yes, a T1 heavy at range. Oh yes, yes, just lay down that hurt. That guy is, I mean, he's in a terrible position, and Rip is able to punish him heavily for that. So that's another bit of more hit points for the Rip bank. Yes? No? I don't know. But back to looking for targets on the ridge line, and another fast forward. So he spots this Type T-34 rushing down the hill. Can he get a shot in if he leads enough? And he does. That's a nice hit. And he might get the kill, but we'll see. He does have binoculars and a camo net on this, and the binoculars are particularly important because this thing has got a pretty cracking view range for a tier 4. They're talking about doing some view range nerfs for tank destroyers generally, and if that happens this might well be affected, but as it is, it gets 400 meter base view range, and at least I think it's 400, it might be 390. It's pretty damn good for a tier 4 anyway. So he's falling back, he doesn't know if he's been spotted or not, but he's just going to assume he has, and hello, shot on the ST-35A, we'll take that, bit more damage. And this replay is all about the damage. This gun is absolutely, it's almost, one would say, OP for tier 4, but it's balanced out by the fact that this thing has basically no armor. The mobility is good, but it's got no armor, and it's also got terrible gun depression, and you'll get to see some of that in both this replay and the next replay as well. So if you notice any little glitches or flickers or whatever, by the way, I think since the 9.4 micro patch, this is a pre-9.4 micro patch replay, obviously, I think that's had an effect on replay, so they're still viewable, but I noticed this with the winner replay as well, that it's a bit, it's slightly buggy in places, but hopefully not too much that it's distracting. Anyway, he's managed to hit that KV1 once more, and we're into a good long stretch of video now, and he's just sitting still and letting his binoculars pick up. You know, if this guy's going to move, then he'll know about it. Now, the remaining tanks on this team have been forced into a sort of defensive pocket almost, or more of a defensive line than a pocket. They're kind of spread along this H line, is it? I can't really see on the edit, the preview window very well. But if anybody moves, he's going to know about it, hopefully. And he's going to have to work fairly hard because there's now very few tier 5s left on his team. And although this was easier matchmaking in terms of the tiering, there are still plenty of tanks that could hurt him very, very easily, because like I said, this thing is... I actually did a replay of this not that long ago, and I called it tinfoil even, and death, which is basically what this is made of. It is not a strongly armoured machine at all. And that's an unlucky bounce on the header, but he obviously catches the gun mantlet at an oblique angle. But 3 shots is enough to put him down, and that's absolutely what he wants. He wants less enemies to deal with, and more damage, because it's all about the damage. So this gun is, yeah, it is. It's great. It's 130 average pen and 160 average damage. And it's a gun that's unique to this vehicle. So that would be a good gun on... I was going to say good gun on a tier 5. It would depend on the tier 5, I suppose. But he's in a bit of trouble now. We spotted that Chihi is, yes... that guy was about to pop up, and the guy did pop up, and he only just got to cover in time. Now, the bathtub fortunately was not taking shots at him, so he gets a chance to take another shot at the bathtub. It's more even now, it's 10-10. The Chihi is still going to be trouble. He's also, you know, given that he's bottom tier in a tier 4, he's also playing really well, and that thing also gets a fairly decent gun. Not nearly as good as this gun, not as good as the Pz.IV Ausf.D's gun, but it's still pretty damn nice. But he's about to go down anyway, so that's going to be one less enemy. And he does appear to be one of the more competent enemies as well, so that's fortunate. He does, however, take the Locastan before he goes down himself. However, there we go, he's dead now. So, Rip is going to head up the hill, so we're going to fast forward a bit. And he's going to spot from this bush, see what he can see. Let the binos come up. And it turns out that Artie had not moved at all from where he was last spotted, so Rip is more than happy to put one into him. There we go. He's not even going to back off. He's possibly not even noticed he's taken damage, and he's taken out. So that's one dangerous enemy down. Rip, obviously, very low health now. He's got to be very, very cautious indeed. It's fortunate that the thing that shot at him had a very low damage gun, so he was able to take several shots. If it had been something... you know, somebody loaded HE or whatever, you know, he might be in... well, he might be dead at this point, and this game would be over, and he wouldn't have been in the running for the 2nd place. So we're down to the last 2 enemies, both tier 4s, an M3 Lee and a Panzer III 8NA, and there's the Lee. And they have spent the... they've pretended, you know, they're so used to playing Kampanovka on normal mode that even when it's an encounter battle, they still go and sit where they would sit if it weren't an encounter battle. So... yes, he's just trying some blind fire, but the Lee seems to have moved. And the 38NA hasn't even been spotted yet, but he must be around here somewhere. Unless he's right down the opposite end of the map. But, I don't know. Based on... oh, no, wait, there he is. Just based on the tier that he's at and how these guys were playing, it seemed likely that this is where he would be. We've also got somebody capping just on the off chance, but he actually isn't... he actually decaps there, so he's... it's always nice when somebody actually, you know, they go and cap just in case. And can we get the final shot? There we go! Wow, that's a pretty good result. So let's take a look at the results. He got an Ace Mastery, High Caliber, Top Gun with 7 kills, 1568 base XP, so I think that was actually better base XP than the last game, and 2837 damage, which was pretty good. So that was a good couple of hundreds. That was what, 250, nearly 300. I can't even do the maths in my head, but that was a bit of a jump from the tier 3 result. And for his efforts, Rip will be getting some gold. And we shall go on to the final replay, which is also going to be the Su-85B, and again is also going to be Malinovka. I don't know what it was about this map. It was just all Malinovka all the time, but yeah, it's a good map to do damage on if you've got a good view range, and obviously that didn't really apply to that first replay, but for the Su-85Bs it certainly does. So, on to the winner. And our grand winner is Slarty Bartfart, again in an SU-85B. Now, if the name seems familiar, it's because I featured a replay of his not that long ago at all in the M41 Walker Bulldog, and he's evidently not too shabby a player. But, of course, there's nothing to stop somebody who's a pretty good player jumping into a low-tier machine to try and win prizes. And actually, of all the brackets, the Tier 1 to 4 had the least entries, so people maybe had the best chance of getting something, but it would require, especially at the low tiers, driving the right sort of machine, and I think the SU-85B is the right sort of machine. There were also some very strong headset entries. I mentioned at the top of the video some other surprising, almost, well, not almost winners, but people that were pretty strong contenders, or so it seemed for a while. Nearly 2,000 damage in a tier 3, for instance, is pretty damn good. But at the end of the day, the SU-85B with its amazing gun has come out top, and it's come out top for a very good reason. Yeah, this is one of the replay bugs. I don't know. I hope that's not too distracting, but it does seem to be the micro patch that's done that, and that's going to be annoying because the majority of the 9.4 replays I have received so far, that I have myself, are all, of course, going to be pre-patch. Now, yes, that shot, he just bounced on an ELC with this gun with 130 average pen. Yes, that must be slightly annoying. Anyway, he's just looking for shots. He's doing the same thing. He's playing cautious, and he is using his view range, and he's having to, this is a very different, we're back to a normal battle, and we're back to full-on camp fest. Tier 6, tanks camping everywhere. Look at the base area. There's people just clustered behind buildings. We've also got an ARL and something else. What's that? A KV2 pushing along the south road, which you can do in a fast tank and get to cover in time. An ARL and a KV2, not so much fast. So already this team is not looking particularly spectacular. But the thing is, I mean, we've had one where it was a loss already. Generally speaking, to have a game where you do lots of damage, you have to have a team that is, by definition, substandard. You have to have a team that isn't doing much damage in order to allow you to pick up some damage, but the team has to also be doing well enough that, especially when you're bottom tier, that you don't just get swamped by 15 enemy tanks rushing you at once, in which case you have a very, very limited chance to survive, and basically no chance to survive if you're in an SU-85B in a tier 6 match, because there are so many things that could just end him with one shell, or, well, several shells, but it's not going to take much to get through 260 hit points. It really isn't. There's not a lot to this machine at all. Anyway, KV2, and oh, he takes the track. Oh, that's a lovely shot. KV2 repairs, and he takes the track again. Oh, this guy is so screwed, even if he doesn't know it, although I suspect at this point he knows it. Now the KV2 disappears, but Slarty knows he's probably still there. I mean, there's no way he's going to repair in time. And there we go, he lights up again, and he's nearly dead. Can he get the kill? Yes, he can. 617 damage already. Now, because I'm doing the full replay now, yeah, good move there, ELC, very smooth. You just ram that KV2. Because I'm doing the full replay, I am able to just go from the video file instead of having to go from the tiny cramped edit window in Sony Vegas. So yeah, also the movement jerks, again, I suspect it's the micro patch, but yeah, hopefully it's not too distracting. He spends a lot of time not moving because, hey, it's a low tier tank destroyer made of paper, tin foil, whatever. So generally these kinds of matches are going to be more static by their nature, and I've tended to, I've been sent some very, very good replays just in the past, generally, where I've looked at them and I've thought, yeah, that's a really high damage result, but it was, to take one example, it was like an ISU game where somebody basically sat in the magic forest shooting at stuff that people had lit up for them, and it was incredibly boring to watch. It was really, really high damage. It was like 7k plus or something ridiculous, but it was just boring. It was just somebody sitting in a forest and firing over and over again, and that's not particularly interesting to watch. So again, he's trying some shots on the camping spot, but he's got to be a bit careful of his ammo. He's already down to 10 AP, and of course he's got 10 APCR and 2 HE as well, but that's only 20 sort of AP/APCR shells left, so he can't afford to spam too many shots and waste too many shells. This thing, the ammo count's alright, but it's not spectacular. You can't, despite the fast rate of fire, you can't afford to spam that many shells. Now, yeah, the Jimbo's thing, it's kind of annoying, the fact that that keeps flickering, but Jimbo's hasn't quite been working right with 9.4 anyway. It sometimes, it gives kind of false readings in terms of, you'll look at the ammo thing and you say, yeah, I'm nearly reloaded, but Jimbo's will say, nope, you've still got at least 20 seconds on your reload, and it makes no sense. It is flicking, by the way. I did try recording it like once or twice, but re-recording it rather, but yeah, micro patch, it's annoying. I will also, I think tomorrow, before I do any of the recording for the tier 5 and 6 bracket, I am going to check to see if anybody has updated mods to, you know, maybe it is mods that are affecting this, but I suspect, given just the nature of the fact that this is pre-patch and I'm using the post-patch client, I suspect that's just enough to introduce some slight annoyances. Anyway, this is looking entirely static so far, which is possibly predictable. Our team is still camped very hard, the enemy team is still camped very hard. We have one KV2 who is actually interested in pushing up and doing stuff, and he did at one point ask Slarty to spot for him again, and that's a risky proposition. Slarty obviously has got decent camo value, he's actually got a camo net, and the binos of course as well, but of course they take a bit of time to actually come up, so he's just trying to see if his base view range is enough to pick up this Tog or basically anybody else that's at the base. And I was slightly worried at this point he was going to open fire on that bush again, but he thinks better of it, because of course you open fire and you can get spotted more easily, so bad things might happen at that point. You'll also see here he's had to go quite far forward to compensate for the fact that, and I did mention this in the previous replay, it really doesn't have good gun depression, this, so when you're dealing with this kind of terrain you have to expose quite a lot of your vehicle. Anyway, the Tog is much further back down there, and he's got this kind of clump of trees that he can use to potentially spot enemies. But the Tog looks like he's coming forward, so Slarty actually backs off slightly. Yes, the temptation to shoot at the side of a Tog is always very strong, but you see where his friendlies are. If he's the only thing the Tog can shoot at, then the Tog will shoot at him. And yeah, there goes that turret round, and ow. Yeah, that's gonna hurt. A Tog's never gonna one-shot you, although if the Tog had happened to have HE loaded, it might have done a seriously bad amount of damage. I don't know if you could one-shot somebody with a 17 pounder HE, but maybe, I'd have to look that up. But he is now, Slarty is now, he's got to be very cautious. Like with the end of the previous battle, the previous replay, he has to be just super cautious. And yeah, he just gets the reload. Again, the Tog turning for him. Never mind he's got 3 tanks shooting at him from the other direction. No, it's the Su-85B you've got to kill. But to be fair, I mean, maybe he recognised what a dangerous target Slarty was, and so it's, I suppose, not totally unreasonable that you'd try and take out somebody if you recognise them as being a high priority. Now, he's got to be extra cautious. He's taken the only hit he can afford to take. The KV2 is now very low health. There's also a T28 and M3 Lee here, but we don't know how good they are. Now, the KV2's dead, but he's now got this KV85, and he's got the guy tracked, so although he's just disappeared, one more shot, and there we go, a nice blind kill. So we've whittled down a lot of the enemy tanks. It's 11-9 at this point. Not an automatic win. It kind of depends what our team does. A lot of the base campers have, of course, died, as base campers end up tending to do. But there are enough still alive that we have a numerical advantage. You'll notice on the kill count, by the way, Slarty is by far leading his team. He's got 5 kills. The most anyone else on his team has managed is 2. So again, the power of this gun, it is pretty damn good. He's actually got a slightly worse reload, so maybe his crew isn't as good as Rip's was. But on the other hand, Rip was... I think Rip runs his as his kind of seal clubber, because I don't know if you noticed, but he had a premium fire extinguisher, which of course reduces the chance of actually catching fire in the first place. So you don't often... you know, the times when that stings you for 20k credit. Oh, hello VK. Yep, rear of the VK. It's not like it's strongly armoured anyway, but rear is even nicer. The times that's going to sting you for 20k credits are probably way outweighed by the times when you don't get set on fire, which is probably not that likely to begin with in the Su-85B. So he's onto his APCR now, and it is more. I mean, the APCR pen is really good, of course, but he has to just be careful in terms of conserving his ammunition because he doesn't have that much left. Now he knows he hit that guy because even if somebody goes just out of render distance but they're technically still spotted, if you hit them in that time, or even if you hit somebody that's spotted that's just out of render anyway, if they're being lit up by a friendly tank, you still get the audio message, so you can actually always tell if you've hit somebody or not. So we're down to the last 3 enemy tanks. The T-28, the M3 Lee are moving up. Hellcat and the Tog. Well, the Hellcat, I don't know what his health is. We didn't really get a good glance. Oh, T-28's just been taken out by the M4, who had come back to defend the rear base area. The Hellcat's now down as well, so he must not have been high health. Although, having said that, he got hit by a KV-2, so I'm not sure it would have mattered. And the Tog has decided to traverse the open field. Now, I know the KV-2 doesn't have the best view range, but even so, for a Tog, it's not the best plan of action ever. On the other hand, it's the shortest distance. Now, Slarty he's just holding fire. He's sort of waiting for enemies to be spotted. He can't afford to go spotting himself. He can't really afford to move up at this point, so he's taking an overwatch position. And the Lee is kind of cautiously pressing upwards and hasn't actually met anybody yet. So wherever that M4 is, you know, my guess would be B1. He's far back enough that he's not going to spot the Lee, or hasn't spotted the Lee yet, but also isn't being spotted himself. And also, again, Slarty, as Rip was, is using camo and binos, because with 400 base view range and the way that, you know, the play style of this thing, you absolutely, I mean, binos are pretty much essential equipment, I would say. You could run with optics, I suppose, but the times when optics are going to beat binos are probably few and far between. You're usually going to want the extra spotting power. So the M4 actually takes a shot at the Lee, and the Lee, the Lee gets finished off by Arty. So we know the Arty's fired. He actually, Slarty took out the M4, and there's artillery. He's got an HE shell loaded. He can get the superstructure. No, well, he doesn't get the superstructure, but he has tracked the guy, so he's pinned him, and that's the last guy on the enemy team, and he's got 7 kills. And let's take a look at the damage. 2,925. Yeah, not too shabby at all. That and the 7 kills was enough to get him 1,757 base XP. All very impressive for a tier 4. He also got an ace mastery, unsurprisingly, a Halonen's medal for destroying 3 vehicles that were 2 tier higher than him in his tank destroyer, Top Gun, and a course a high caliber. Of course, he did more than double the damage of, well, nearly, not more than, nearly double the damage of anybody else on his team. The next best was 1,515 in a Hellcat. So yeah, nearly. I can into maths, you guys. I can. Honest. So if you enjoyed this tier 1 to 4 bracket, you will obviously want to stay tuned for the tiers 5 and 6, which is coming tomorrow. You can leave any comments below, you can hit the like button, you can subscribe to my channel, and as always, stay tuned for more.